news that's dominated through the day, the Bhumi Pujan at Ayodhya. During his speech, Prime Minister Modi said that India has scripted history. He says Ram belongs to everyone. Now, while Ayodhya and many parts of India were seen celebrating, now, of course, there have been 4 big controversies that have also come along with this mega event. The historic day is complete. The construction of Ram Mandir will now begin. But controversies will always continue. Tonight, I am going to talk about 4 controversies and simply ask questions if they are justified and what the views are on both sides. The first one, of course, was the Muslim Personal Law Board questioning the judgment, saying that the situation doesn't last forever. And this kind of a land-grabbing usurpation of law and appeasement-oriented judgment isn't acceptable. That's the first controversy which happened where the All India Muslim Personal Law Board tweeted. Now, of course, even after the verdict was given by Supreme Court, they had a similar comment to make, but they chose again to speak up today on the day of the Bhumi Pujan for the Ram Mandir. Then there was, of course, Asaduddin Owaisi and many others who've questioned the presence of Prime Minister at an event like this, at a Bhumi Pujan for a temple, for a mandir, and whether a sitting Prime Minister should be attending such religious functions. But the BJP and even the Prime Minister have never been shy of their own religious beliefs and sentiments, and that's what we saw today as well. More than the Prime Minister, he was a Ram Bhakt who was there in Ayodhya. The third big controversy that's also emerged is the absence of the top leaders who were linked with the Ayodhya movement. Lal Krishna Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi not present, not invited. Of course, the reason being given is that they are elderly, and in times of a pandemic, it is not advisable for them to step out. But there were many seers and many gurus who were present there in the same age group, and nobody stopped them. In fact, they got invited, and hence the controversy continues. And point number 4, the big fourth controversy, is a mega religious event being held in times of corona, when there are rules and regulations for number of people being present. Should this have been done? We'll talk about these controversies. First up, let's go across to Mandar Fanse, who's joining us from Ayodhya. And Mandar, we had a bit of a trouble getting through to you because you were stuck in a traffic jam, and not the one that we are seeing, the kind we are seeing in Mumbai, which was because of heavy rains, but because there is a festive feeling and sentiment in Ayodhya, and people are out on the streets. Tell us about it.
Yes, absolutely. You can see how the whole Ayodhya is completely jammed. The people are on the road, the bikes, thousands of the numbers, bikes are on the road. The VIP movement is also happening. The police is also trying to go out and leave the Hyderabad city, the Ayodhya city. And at the same time, you can see lakhs and lakhs, thousands of people over here on the road. I'm almost traveling last half an hour, only a distance of some 500 meters from within the city of Ayodhya, from Hanuman Gadi to Ram Ki Pedi. It took almost 1.5 hour time. That is the situation right now in Ayodhya. I just asked a few people on the road why they are out in such a large number. That everybody was telling that they were not really expecting such kind of crowd and mismanagement of the traffic, especially if we see right now over here in this Chauraha of Ayodhya, Ram Ki Pedi, where thousands of people are still there stuck. People have literally searching for each other over here. The city is in almost a chaotic situation. Not just that, the police is, it seems it has suddenly relaxed after the VIP movement. And then we also found in the road in between, some Punjab police were trying to control the traffic. The UP police as of now on the highway is trying to control the traffic over here. But this is the situation in Ayodhya. It's absolutely chaotic. No physical distancing, no rules and regulations about the corona pandemic. Everyone of all possible age group is there seen on the road. This is the situation of Ayodhya right now. You can see the kids are also there without masks. The old age people are also there. Along with them, there are thousands and thousands of people who have come outside on and just trying to roam around and look after the city, because remember, they were kept under the restraint for last 2 days, and somehow today they thought that post this VIP movement, post this spectacular program on the television sets which they have watched, everybody thought that they should go out and watch those places and those areas where the city was literally decorated. The city is really decorated, but this is the situation. Absolutely no physical distancing. Nothing is really managed well here on the roads. It is absolutely in a chaos. Tanvi.
Okay, Mandar, it's very interesting what you are showing to us, and such a stark contrast to what we saw through the day, and especially in the first half, or even yesterday and day before, where there were hardly any people. Today in the day, there were hardly any people except the dignitaries and the attendees who were present, all moving around in absolute discipline. Then what changed, Mandar, suddenly in the evening? Is it that people wanted to come out and catch a glimpse? Is it that the security suddenly became lax, or there were no standing instructions for what happens after the Bhumi Pujan?
Absolutely, all put together, Tanvi. People definitely they wanted to watch what has exactly happened in Ayodhya, and what exactly has been done in Ayodhya. So everybody wanted to come out and see what is happening around in Ayodhya. Apart from that, the police suddenly got completely relaxed with the last 3 days continuously being on the toes for the security purpose. Suddenly on the arterial roads inside the Ayodhya city, the traffic jam started occurring, and thereafter this particular situation is evident. Apart from that, the people, they are really found completely clueless that how so many people have come out on the road. And this is the evening when you can see thousands and thousands of bikes are still stranded on the road. People are also finding out their own places where to go, and most of the cars and otherwise the people from the administration who were here for last 3 to 4 days because of the Prime Minister's movement, all those people also wants to go simultaneously outside the city. This has completely snowballed into such kind of chaos in Ayodhya. So this is the situation in Ayodhya, and so the situation is getting worse. Almost since last 2 hours, this traffic jam is as it is, and police right now, I can see they're trying to control the mob, they're trying to control the people, but it is out of their control.
Yeah, I don't think they're even trying to control them anymore, because it's not going to be possible. It just seems more like they're trying to regulate the traffic, tell people where to go, and somehow, get them all out of there. But you can see the number of cars and bikes in the background. And in fact, that's why we had trouble even getting across to Mandar, because he was stuck somewhere, and our video journalist who was traveling with him was stuck in another place in this traffic jam. But Mandar Fanse, thanks so much for bringing us, this update as well. Very important, and I think people need to introspect a little bit. People need to be reminded of what the Prime Minister repeatedly says: 2 गज की दूरी, मास्क पहनिए, घर में रहिए, और अगर निकलना है तो 2 गज की दूरी मेंटेन कीजिए. Now, it doesn't matter if there is a Ram Mandir being constructed in your city. You still need to follow these rules to protect yourself from the pandemic, from coronavirus. Nothing else will help you at this point of time, something that the people seem to have forgotten, unfortunately, the minute this event was over. Let's say good evening to the experts and the panelists who are joining us this evening, and back to the talking point that I introduced to you earlier, which was to ask if all the criticism that's come along with this event is really warranted. And we'll go one by one. So let's say good evening to Neerja Chaudhary, senior journalist, joining us this evening. Desh Ratan Nigam, RSS supporter. Altar Hussain, Secretary and spokesperson of the Indo-Islamic Cultural Foundation. Vishnu Jain, lawyer for the Ram Janmabhoomi case. And of course, Vinay Tiwari with me in the studios. But Vinay, one quick comment from you as well on what Mandar was showing us. This is what you usually fear when there are big events organized, and which is why they're not allowed. And they managed it so beautifully and successfully for the last 3 days. but not now.
This is what we were saying in the morning, that in many ways it is possibly good that it was happening in the backdrop of COVID. Otherwise, we would have seen hundreds and thousands of people on the streets from morning itself.
Yes, and this is when outsiders were not allowed.
When outsiders were not allowed. And now you see that the police obviously relaxed after the VIPs left the city. And see what's happened. There are thousands of people in the streets, and for half a day now, people have forgotten that we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and Uttar Pradesh particularly has a slightly more serious problem. 2 of their cabinet ministers have tested positive. 1 cabinet minister has actually lost her life, and this is probably the time when they need to be most careful. And in fact, one of the things which struck me, Tanvi, was when Vandar was showing those visuals of hundreds of people walking past, but a lot of people were not even wearing masks. So forget social distancing. Even the basic precautions were not there. They're so eager to come out on the streets. Not good, and I think the police should have been better prepared and perhaps anticipated that people would want to come out suddenly and see what's been done and the fact that the city has been lit up and beautified because of the ceremony today.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is also a message to the people. They need to remember, they need to show some amount of responsibility as well. Excitement and sheer joy aside about what's happened and the beginning of a golden chapter. We are still in a pandemic, and that's not going away, and that you need to keep in mind. But let's talk about what else has been controversial around this event. And point number 1 that was raised, of course, was by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board to say, well, this is an appeasement focused judgment, and this situation will not remain forever. Now, is that controversy really needed anymore? Let me actually begin with that question with Neerja Chaudhary. Neerja Chaudhary, the Supreme Court judgment is out. Do we really need to be making a noise about that anymore?
I think yes, because not to be making a noise, because the court. It was said earlier that the court's verdict would be accepted, and it used to be the Vishwa Hindu Parishad all through the years who would repeatedly raise the point that it was a matter of faith, even as some people talked about accepting the court judgment or a negotiated settlement or through the legislature. But it was the Hindu side that would say it was a matter of faith. The Muslim side, on the whole, I think if I remember right, whenever talks were held, they would say they would accept the court judgment. I remember Mr. late Saeed Shahabuddin also saying this. And therefore, the court has given its verdict, and it seemed the Muslim community had accepted it. Now, I must say here, bring this point here, that the court also talked about the demolition on 6th of December 1992 being a criminal act. Now, if it is a criminal act, then how do you respond to that? Should you not hold those who were responsible for the criminal act culpable in some way, punishable in some way? And it's taking a long time, that other case of fixing responsibility. This case is probably the longest ever case that has gone on. It's divided our country, it's divided our politics, it's divided social relation, and yet the courts have taken such a long time to come out with their verdict. And fixing accountability, I mean, Mr. Lalkrishan Advani, 28 years after, the demolition took place, his statement is being recorded a few days ago.
Yes.
Would a person of that age even remember? You may lose your memory, you may not remember all the details. So our judicial system is, there is a question mark against it. Why it should go on for so long? I would even say the Liberhand Commission, which gave its report. 17 long years for a commission of inquiry to give a report. What value does it have? So, and what did it come out with? Khoda Pahar and Nikli Chuya, that was the case with the Liberhand Commission. So I think given the way the whole thing has worked, our judiciary and our systems, and the reason is because this was such a hot potato for everybody.
Yes.
Nobody wanted to touch it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, one can only hope that since the Supreme Court has said now that this needs to be fast-tracked and daily hearings need to be done just the way it was done for the other case, we can hope that, you know, now soon there will be some decision and some judgment coming in. But Mr. Atar Hussain, what's your view on All India Muslim Personal Law Board now raising this controversy today as well? I mean, since the judgment, they have a legal recourse if they want to take, but is it necessary to they say this situation won't last forever?
I think it is not justifiable on the part of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. And especially when you mention the tweet through which the statement came, it was signed by some office secretary. So maybe they were not serious about this tweet even. But I am a bit sarcastic. But All India Muslim Personal Law Board has this consistent line, I believe, since this issue came, that they will always abide by the Supreme Court, whatever be the final judgment in this process. And now, when this judgment has come and will come out with this kind of a statement, raising question on basically the highest court of the country, in itself says that what kind of things they believe in and whatever the agenda which has not been served and what they try to do in the future. But here the most important thing I just want to mention that in March 2019, when this mediation committee was constituted by the Honorable Supreme Court, and this committee invited everyone, all the stakeholders, and All India Muslim Personal Law Board has never been the stakeholder. I want to clarify that. It is only the UP Sunni Central Waqf Board, and there were the other 7 parties, as far as the Muslims are concerned. Those were the local people, that includes Iqbal Ansari, Haji Mehboob, and all. They were all part of this mediation, but only the regular rhetoric of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and whatever be the political compulsions, they did not participate in the mediation. And eventually, this verdict came. So now when this verdict has come, either you have to stick to it one side, whether you want it to be through mediation or the verdict. Now, when this verdict has come, you should abide by it. This is my submission.
Once the verdict has come, everybody should abide by it. You use the legal recourses that are available to you as per constitution in this country. And yes, that's what should have been done. Just letting our viewers know, those are the shots that are actually from New York. With that, you know, the pictorial representation of what the Ram Mandir is going to look like with the flag of India and, of course, Lord Ram on the side. This is Times Square.
That's the Times Square.
And this is what is being put up at the Times Square in New York today. It's a historic day for believers, for Hinduism followers across the world. And this is just a sign of that. Even now we're getting visuals from various parts of the country as well of people lighting diyas in their own homes as well. Yesterday it was like a Diwali in Ayodhya, and today everywhere else also, especially in Uttar Pradesh, starting from the Chief Minister's residence. But let me quickly move on to the second controversy that has been there for the last 1 week at least, if not more, and that's about people like Asaduddin Owaisi and several others saying that it isn't right for a sitting Prime Minister to be present and leading such a Bhumi Pujan ceremony for a temple, such a religious event. Mr. Nigam, would you want to share your views on this controversy? Is this warranted?
Well, not at all. In fact, we have a precedent, a very clear precedent of Somnath Temple, where the head of state, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, attended the Bhumi Pujan at that point of time. And a head of state has a higher position in the constitution than the Prime Minister. So I don't think there is any controversy out here. And artificially manufactured controversy is to being provocative towards Hindus and also incite our Muslim brothers. And this is not the time. And Muslim Personal Law Board is also being provocative and also committing contempt of court. All this is a kind of a contempt of court if you look at the letter and spirit of their statements. And this is not at all required. Prime Minister represents every section. He goes to Dargah also. Yes, many parties used to give iftar party, celebrates Eid. We have had no objection. Prime ministers have gone there, attended. So I don't know what kind of controversy they are trying to create. Are they, trying to cater to their very limited constituency that they have and trying to maintain their political base? I think they are absolutely wrong. Majority of Muslims have accepted it happily. These people were given chance for mediation. They did not accept it. The mediation failed. Obviously, in a contested case, somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And courts have made it very clear the judgment is based on evidence and facts and not on faith. So let us accept it and move on. This is the time to move on and have that kind of harmony in the society and not to be very provocative.
Yes, but many would argue that while he may be present at such an event, would he do the same for other crucial religious functions as the Prime Minister who represents all religions and all people in his country and is responsible for them? That becomes the question, Mr. Vishnu Jain, or would he choose only one versus the other? Is that kind of a criticism or questioning warranted? Can a Prime Minister not have his own faith and at least be open about it rather than being shy or hiding it or changing his stance?
See, Tanvi, you have asked a very relevant question, and perhaps if you will look back in the history, it is very evident that from the constitution itself there is no embargo on the Prime Minister of the country that he can't profess his faith. If he is a Prime Minister of the country, he also has a right under Article 25 to practice and propagate his faith. But so far as his capacity as a Prime Minister is concerned, at that point of time he cannot promote any religion, and there is when the bar of Article 14, 15 and 27 comes into operation. Now why Mr. Owaisi's and all the objections are misplaced here is because this was not a function which was organized by the government. This was a function which was organized by the trust, and not even a single penny has been spent by government exchequer. So the fact of the matter is, if Pranab Mukherjee can write book under Article 361 subclause 4 in his personal capacity, if so many Prime Ministers have visited so many religious places in their personal capacity, then why the Prime Minister of our own country can't propagate his own faith and do something in his personal capacity? He has never made any statement, or in his today's speech also, he has nowhere said that he is coming there as the Prime Minister of the country. Though he is the Prime Minister of the country, so there is a very minute distinction which others are not able to apply in this particular case, because this was not a government function, this was a function by the trust, and therefore this is no principles of secularism are violated. And let me tell you one very important conceptual aspect, Tanvi. People are never secular, the government is. When the government does any function, then you can say that government is promoting a particular religion, and therefore the bar of Article 27 is into place and you can't promote any religion from taxpayers' money. But so far as people are concerned, their individual rights are concerned, I am not bound to be secular, and therefore whatever Mr. Owaisi is saying, he must look into facts. Whatever has happened in history where a lot of chadars were given to Ajmer Dargah, was it not criticized then? Where was he when he should have criticized those acts also?
Right. Vinay, would you agree that being secular doesn't mean that you are not a believer in one faith? It's more about showing the respect to the others.
Yeah, look, I tell you, I have a slight problem with this debate for the simple reason that unfortunately in India, whenever we ask or suggest or talk about so-called secularism, it's really only about a binary between Hindus and Muslims. There are many more religions in India as well, and there are precedences of Indian Prime Ministers or even other key functionaries of the Constitution of India having gone to other religious places as well. Prime Ministers have gone to Golden Temple, they have graced other occasions as well. And that's a religion as well. Just because those religions have not had a fractious relationship with the Hindus doesn't mean that that's not a religion in itself. So I think I agree with Mr. Jain that ultimately this was a function organized by a trust. It wasn't a Government of India function. And more so, this is a party and a Prime Minister who has never hidden his belief in a particular faith. They've been open about it, they've been very unabashed about it, and they have never shied away from calling themselves, on the side of practicing Hindus and being a Hindu party. And if anybody was surprised that he was there, I think that surprise is the surprising bit, as Javed Ansari was telling us a short while back. Nobody should be surprised that Mr. Modi went there. Nobody should be surprised that the RSS chief was on the stage, because that is only to be expected. It's been their top issue. And on the day, and this is something that they've practiced openly. They've never done a foxtrot like some of the other parties seem to have done, where you don't quite know where they stand. And BJP is never hidden from publicly stating where they stand on this particular issue.
Okay, point well taken. I want to quickly move on to controversy number 3, and which has been actually a big talking point. The absence, Neerja Chaudhary, of the big names, the leaders who were the big face and the flag bearers of the Ayodhya movement from the BJP. L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi not present. There was a huge controversy even about Uma Bharti, but she said either which way she's going to be there. She will be at the Saryu Ghat, and then at the last minute there was an invite that was sent to her, she says, and she was finally at the event. But is this a warranted controversy?
Look, it is like the spokesperson of the Nirmohi Akhada, which is very central to the Ram movement over the years and decades, and was one of the litigants in the case for the title suit. He was expressing on your channel this morning his sense of grievance that their top people were not invited, and that there's only one representative from them on the trust, and that too because the Supreme Court has given by name said that they should be on the trust. So that is a legitimate grievance, and that could have been looked after. And I think even Mr. Lal Krishna Advani, if anybody gets the credit for today, really, for laying the foundations of today, it is Lal Krishna Advani and the Ram Rath Yatra that he led. At one time, when the idea was conceived, the idea was to have 4 leaders lead 4 yatras to Ayodhya from different parts of the country, north, south, east and west. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Vijay Raja Scindia, Sikandar Buck, all 3 of them had cried off. It was only Advani who agreed to lead the yatra, and then it was thought Somnath to Ayodhya Yatra. So, and of course, the kind of response that Mr. Advani saw on the way was something that he'd not expected. The kind of faith that ordinary Hindus, would come to the Rath and, worship it. And he himself has written in his book how touched he was. Therefore, this movement, the Ram Rath Yatra, actually catapulted the BJP from a figure of 2 MPs in 1984 to over 80. Now, he's the man responsible. Yes, I would have thought if the trust people could have gone personally to invite him in Delhi to make sure. Now, it's his decision whether at his age he decides to come because of COVID risks. It's also Murli Manohar Joshi, who before December 6 Card Seva had also moved around those states, mobilizing people. Now, he also should have been properly invited, because these are your top leaders who have laid the foundations for the BJP becoming what it is today with 303 figure in the Lok Sabha. Of course, Mr. Narendra Modi has given it the final leap, to take it to becoming a majority party. So yes, the answer to your question is all those who were involved, whether or not they were able to come, they certainly should have been invited.
Mr. Deshratan Nigam, do you have a view on this? Whether or not they choose to be there or think about their health first should have been left to them, but they did deserve an invite purely from the fact of their own contribution to this entire journey.
See, Champat Rai ji, the Vice President of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, made it very clear. And what goes behind the scene, probably none of us would know, because they remain in touch with each other, and they have finally decided that they will not be there. So none of these people have themselves objected. I think it is an artificial controversy which is being created in certain quarters. I have not heard Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi or Shri Advani ji objecting to it. They know it, and they are also aware of the situation. And Ram Mandir Trust was in touch with them, and Champat Rai ji made it very clear. He said apologies also to them. Their contributions cannot be denied nor undermined. And the Ram Temple movement, which was there, Advani ji and Murli Manohar Joshi's contribution is great contribution. Yes, I understand there are criminal cases going on which will be taken to a logical conclusion. But I believe, in my opinion, this is an artificially manufactured controversy from certain quarters.
Vinay, do you have a view on this? Of course, there is a pandemic and they are of the age where serious health issues can take place. But we saw many people over there who are above the age of 60, 65 and present for this ceremony.
Yeah, look, my personal view is only from the point of view of Mr. Advani. I've always believed he's possibly the unluckiest politician one could have. He rightfully believed that he had he should have been the Prime Minister of this country. Mr. Vajpayee became the Prime Minister because the politics at that time possibly required a person with a different image. But when, his turn, or quote-unquote turn came, the BJP had moved on. I mean, the country had changed, the BJP had moved on, and there was a new politics taking shape in this country. And Mr. Modi emerged as the new, prime ministerial candidate from the party. He lost out on that. Obviously, he was very graceful about it. He never really made his, even if he was upset, he never said anything publicly. And now, when the final culmination point of something that he began, and rightfully is the architect of that particular movement, when the pinnacle of that moment came, there is a pandemic now which is prevented. And I'm sure that if there was no COVID or no pandemic, this question of him being invited, not invited would never have arisen. He would have been there. So it's just sheer bad luck. I mean, I feel bad that, he has had to have this disappointment twice over on two issues where it would have been the highest point of his personal or political life.
Yeah, no, because I'm a little confused, Mr. Vishnu Jain, because there have been multiple versions. Mr. Deshratan Nigam quoted one version of what Mr. Champat Rai said, where they had telephonic conversations at the last minute. And in fact, he went on to even say that for Kalyan Singh also he advised don't come, but he chose to. Initially, Uma Bharti said, well, it's pandemic time, so she'll stay away. She'll only be at Saryu Ghat, but then she got an invite and she was there. And then for these two, it was earlier said too many people and we didn't want to risk their health, so we didn't invite them. Then later on, he came out and said, no, we did speak on the phone. Why even create such a controversy? Why not simply invite and let them decide? I mean, of all the people who should have been invited, these two would be on the top of that list, isn't it?
See, Tanvi, the point is Mr. Champat Rai and the trust has organized this function, and all these guest lists and all these dignitaries who have been invited today has been finalized by the trust, and the fact remains the Hindu public in general and all these VVIPs and dignitaries have a very specific say that we are interested in construction of Ram Temple. This is not a place where personal scores have to be settled. This is not an occasion where you have to see your own personal issues, that whether you are invited or not. And Mr. Champat Rai had a very detailed conversation with all these dignitaries, and all the aspects of all these dignitaries have been taken care by the trust and Mr. Champat Rai in particular. And if you know, Mr. Yogi Adityanath has personally invited Kalyan Singh. So all the respects of our elderly persons who have been associated in the movement has been taken care. But there are many aspects so far invitation and everything is concerned. But I think Mr. Advani will be very happy today. In his life, he has seen this moment that the revolution, the Andolan which he had initiated today, it has reached a logical conclusion. What more better can be in his life when he is seeing the foundation stone being laid down of Ram Temple in his own life. This is a completely devotional, divine day for all of us who have been associated in this movement from past 70 years. And personally, myself, this was the first case of my life in 2010, and when I joined Supreme Court, it was the first case in my life as an advocate on record. And today I see that the foundation stone of Ram Mandir is laid. I think that is the biggest gift which I can get in my life. And invites are sent or not is a separate aspect. That's not an issue at all. And so far as Nirmohi Akhada is concerned, that yes, we had a tussle with Nirmohi Akhada in the Supreme Court. We were not agreeing with their stand. The suit of Nirmohi Akhada has been rejected by the Supreme Court, and as per the direction of the Supreme Court, they have been given a space in the trust. But so far as these occasions are concerned, we do not want to debate and discuss these issues in open public, but we do not want Nirmohi Akhada to be particularly invited and raise debates and issues or various controversies there, because this is a special occasion for all of us, and therefore various aspects have been taken care by the trust when these invite and guest lists have been finalized.
What kind of inclusion ideology is this when they are part of your trust but you don't listen to their voice and you exclude them from such an historic day? For centuries together, they've also fought for this cause, even if it's not on the same page.
So
Mr.
we have.
Jain.
No, the point is that Nirmohi Akhada and so far as Ramlala Virajman is concerned have never fought on the same lines. There was a fight so far as their own ownership is concerned.
Correct.
And if you will see the stand of Nirmohi Akhada, they had gone ahead in the case and they had gone ahead and entered into a compromise with this Sunni Central Waqf Board. So the stand of Nirmohi Akhada has never been in favor of Ram Temple. The stand of Nirmohi Akhada throughout was that they wanted chanda and
I understand that. Everybody knows what their stand was.
So
and what the Supreme Court said for them. My only question to you is, if Ram Rajya is about inclusion, and in their own ways they were fighting for a temple here, for this land, why would you exclude them or anybody? Or deny them the right? They are part of the trust. Supreme Court found merit in giving them one membership on the trust. Why would we want to disregard their view?
See, the point is that the trust is not legally bound to invite someone or not to invite someone. This is a function which is organized by the trust, and whoever has stood for the cause, whoever has stood for the revolution, trust has invited all the persons. And if you talk about the theory of inclusion, Mr. Hashim Ansari was invited, the chairperson of Sunni Central Waqf Board was invited, Mr. Owaisi was given an invite. So you can't say that these persons are invited, these persons are excluded. That's a separate controversy altogether. But the fact of the matter is that whoever has stood for the cause of Shri Ram Janmabhoomi and whoever played a vital role and are in good health and they can come and attend the functions, they all the dignitaries have been invited and have been included. And if you'll see the version of the Prime Minister, the speech of the Prime Minister, he has categorically stated, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. The speech, the narration of the speech, the gist of the speech is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. He has asked all the sections of the society to help in construction of Ram Temple. So this is not a propagation, this is not a day of exclusion, this was a day of inclusion, and Ram Raj precisely means a theory of inclusion, and precisely that's what stated in the directive principles of state policy from Article 36 to Article 51.
Correct.
We believe in the theory of inclusion, but the fact is the persons and the communities who have stood against the cause, they cannot be invited, they cannot be given any glory on today's day.
I think you missed the contradiction in your own statement, but Vinay, you wanted to make a point?
No, Mr. Iqbal Ansari was invited, and I was, I think that is appreciable that he was invited. But remember, Iqbal Ansari's father, Hashim Ansari, and Ramchand Gopal Das, they used to travel to the court together. I mean, Ayodhya is full of those stories, and how they used to go on rickshaws together in the evening on the ghat. They would play cards, have chai together. So the fractiousness of the battle actually really picked up or peaked only in the 80s. I mean, this was a very harmonious battle, if I can use that word, at least amongst the principal litigants. I mean, I don't know if the people around them were probably a little more hostile towards each other, but the two litigants were possibly the best of friends. So it was good to see Mr. Iqbal Ansari being invited today and being made officially part of the invitee list.
Okay, very quickly, the last one, and maybe Mr. Akhtar Hussain can come in on that one. The last big controversy, Mr. Akhtar Hussain, about holding a grand event like this in times of a pandemic. Of course, the number of guests was pruned significantly. Otherwise, we would have actually seen 1,000 invitees perhaps, and that didn't happen. But and what we saw this evening, and I'm sure you watched it at the beginning of this show, the scenes from Ayodhya, people on the streets, hundreds of them, traffic jam now. Was there merit to that controversy and that question being raised? Why do it at such a time?
I think since this event, which was being hosted by the trust, Ram Tirath Trust, the Prime Minister was one of the person who was to be there in that function. Obviously, the entire UP state machinery was involved as UP CM. And the Honorable Governor of Uttar Pradesh was there. So they must have had completely drawn some framework, and they must have been having some provisions that all those COVID regulations be abided. But yes, we are in right now in a global medical emergency. This COVID situation is very serious, and our country is also facing a very serious situation, especially in UP, in Lucknow. We are having cases around 600 plus every day. So I wouldn't comment on that if they might have avoided this program right now. But obviously, if they have had some, as you said, better
Yes.
planning as the
Well,
images which was coming up.
Well, the irony of it is, Mr. Hussain, that the program actually went fine for the most of it without any hiccups. True, yesterday, day before, since our reporters have been there, we've barely seen any people around, absolutely clean streets, people maintaining discipline, people maintaining social distancing. Through the event today, everybody was sitting on their designated spots. From the time the Prime Minister landed and he was, welcomed by Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, there were lines and circles drawn everywhere, so people knew how much of distance to maintain. But the minute all the dignitaries left, and the minute all the VVIPs left, there seems to be something that's gone wrong. And a part of this also has to be the people's own introspection. Mr. Nigam, you wanted to make a point before I wrap?
See, the fact is, the program was already delayed. It should have happened long time back, and the program happened under strict guidelines. What happened afterwards is something. It's a people's challenge. I published an article that lockdown was about enforceability and unlockdown is about people's challenge and discipline. That is where in the evening we saw that people took liberty with themselves and probably emotions took the better part of discretion. And at the same time, these are the times where factories are opening. The India is slowly opening up, and with a lot of discipline, with less attendance in factories and in other shops, and Delhi is becoming normal as well. So we are also opening slowly, but cautiously. But one should not, throw to wind all these precautions, and let us have that public discipline that we have maintained till now.
Okay. Yes, and I think I want to remind all those people, not just in Ayodhya, but any other city who seem to forget this sometimes. Coronavirus is still with us. We still need to maintain social distancing, observe the lockdown norms, wear a mask, and keep our distance from everybody else. There is no vaccine yet. We need to do this to battle coronavirus. No amount of any other belief or prayers or temples will really protect you from this pandemic. Let's do our part as citizens. While we follow our faith and pray to the Lord and welcome this Bhumi Pujan and the beginning of the construction of the Ram temple, none of this justifies what's happening in the evening on the streets of Ayodhya. And apart from that, you've heard our views from panelists about all the controversies. Controversies aside, it has definitely been an historic day. One can hope that now that the BJP has delivered on this, more focus actually goes on the development issues and the promises they made on that front to the people of this country. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. A big thank you to all of our panelists.